Hey guys, welcome back to Cobla Creations. So in today's video, we're going to be answering a question that we've been getting, quite a bit recently, and that is, why has my bearded dragon just stopped eating for me all of a sudden?
So in answering that question, we want you to understand that there is no simple one-size-fits-all answer. And we're certainly not veterinarians, and we're not trying to make a medical diagnosis. But with our experience breeding these dragons over the years, we're going to give you a couple of things to take in consideration, some things maybe you want to look into that may answer what has caused your dragon to suddenly stop feeding.
So the first reason why your dragon may stop eating for you is because of its environment. Maybe you're keeping your cage too hot or too cold, and you may not even be aware that this is happening.
A couple of weeks ago, I got a phone call from a young lady who had purchased a dragon from us, and all of a sudden it went off feed for no apparent reason. One of the questions that I asked her was she sure about the environment in which her dragon was living? Apparently what had happened, she bought this bearded dragon from us back, I think it was around November, December, in the winter months, and her house was a little bit cooler, and so she used a 100-watt basking bulb. But now that as we've moved into the summer months, the sunshine has intensified outside, and that sunlight shining through the windows in the room in which she kept her dragon caused the room temperature to rise up. Even though her thermostat said that it was set on like 73 degrees, the summer months, the sunlight is a lot more intense, and because the thermostat to her home, central heat and air, was not located in that room was a lot warmer than she thought it was. Once she got a reliable thermometer, she tested the temperature, found out that the dragon was over 90 degrees on the cool spot. That means that her basking temperatures was well over 120 degrees, and the dragon simply stopped eating due to heat stress. Once we got that situation taken care of, then we can get the dragon back on a regular feeding schedule. So like she said, it could be a simple environmental issue. You need to get a good quality thermometer to test that. Also test your humidity. Please don't rely on those little cheap gauges that look like the old-timey speedometers in a car. Those things are notorious for being inaccurate, and this is something that you can't afford to mess up. You want your median temperature to be somewhere around ballpark 85 degrees, and we don't like our basking spots to get over 100 degrees.
And of course, the opposite of that would be your cage is getting too cold. So maybe in the winter time, your bedroom is a lot cooler, therefore the dragon's cage is a lot cooler, and they'll go into hibernation, or at least they think that they're going to hibernate, and then this will cause them to eat a lot less. Speaking of hibernation, for those of you who don't know, sometimes you don't have to put your dragon in hibernation. The dragon will do it itself. So a lot of times around November, if you notice that your dragon has cut back a lot on feeding and is hiding in hiding spots or in different areas of the cage, he's not coming out under the basking light, that dragon is basically showing you that he's ready to hibernate.
Last year we got an email from a guy who actually, we didn't know at the time, but he lived in Canada. This guy had went to a veterinarian and had already accrued about $400 worth of veterinarian bills. And he called me up and he was telling me what his dragon was doing. He said it's crawled underneath the paper substrate. It wouldn't bask anymore, and his veterinarian couldn't figure out what was going on. He couldn't figure out what was going on. And so even though it was still warm here in South Georgia where I'm from, I asked him, I said, are you by any chance from somewhere further up north? And he said, well, actually, I'm from Canada. And I said, I can tell you exactly what's going on with your dragon. Your dragon is trying to hibernate. If you would just simply go ahead and switch the lights off, let him take a nap for about a month, I think you'll find everything will be fine once you wake that dragon back up. By the way, we have a video on this channel on bearded dragon brumation. If that's what you think may be going on, be sure to check out that video as well.
One of the next possibilities would be that your bearded dragon,
Okay, this is a bearded dragon video.
Oh, I thought it was crested geckos. Next possibility is that you are feeding your dragon too much. Now, I do want to mention, we have said in past videos that we feed our baby bearded dragons salads in the morning, so we'll feed them greens or carrots, lots of fruits and vegetables, and then in the afternoon, we're gonna feed them their insects.
We do recommend that, but to do that every day, consider that to be more of a guideline and not an absolute rule. Like she was saying, it could be that your dragon is simply being fed too much and too often. Most of these animals are opportunistic feeders, which means that they only feed when the opportunity presents itself. It's highly doubtful that a bearded dragon in the wild is going to find 5 or 6 crickets or dubia roaches at one time every single day. In captivity, we're feeding them an amount of food that they're probably never going to have in their natural environment. And so for that reason, it shouldn't shock us that our dragons sometimes go through a period of temporary fasting. And in fact, I believe that it's healthy for your dragon, especially if you're borderline, your dragon's a little overweight. If you do some research on dragons from the wild, one of the things that you'll notice is that they do tend to look a little slimmer, perhaps even a little skinnier than the bearded dragons that we see oftentimes in captivity, which looks a lot like a stuffed sausage. Some people overfeed their dragons, and after a while the dragon just says, you know what, I need a break, I'm shutting down. In fact, we had a dragon that did just that very thing.
Yeah, we had somebody bring us a bearded dragon, that same problem. It wasn't feeding, and it was only maybe a year old, and it was huge for one dragon. And I kept her, what's the word? Quarantine, thank you. You would think that I would remember that at this point in history. I kept her quarantined for, honestly, a couple of weeks. And even though I offered her food, she just wouldn't eat. So for a few days, I just let her fast. And now she is much more healthy. She's slimmed down and she actually has an appetite for whenever I feed her. But I don't feed her every day, and I certainly don't feed her twice every day. Now, we had mentioned before that we feed our babies twice a day, but baby bearded dragons require more food and more water. The adults do not. Used to, I would feed them during the week, and then I would let them fast on the weekends. But here lately, I've been feeding them about 2 days a week, let them fast for another day, feed them another 3 days, and then let them fast again. And oftentimes you kind of just have to look at your dragon and tell if they are bloated from eating so much the day before. Even if you had planned in your head, okay, I'm gonna feed them today, but if you look at them and tell they're way bigger than normal, they're just abnormally bloated, then it's okay to say, okay, you know what, today, you're just gonna fast, honey. You can wait a minute.
All right, well, the next reason that your dragon could go off feed, especially if he's a male, could be the breeding season. After all, when it comes to breeding, us fellas do have our priorities.
Anyway, as of right now, it is the breeding season. So what's happening in captivity is also what's happening in the wild. So as of right now, so a lot of times the males will cut back a lot on feeding because their number one priority is searching for a mate.
And that could also be the case, even if there's not a female present. They still know because of environmental factors, temperature, the length of daylight versus darkness, all those things play into consideration that lets your animals know what time of year it is. So, you know what, just feel sorry for the fella if you don't have a female, and just try again in a little while.
You might also find that he will be bobbing his head and fluffing out his black beard at his reflections or at mirrors in the house.
So guys, if you've gone down all the things that we've talked about in this video, and maybe your dragon has fasted for a while, he's not started back eating, maybe he or she is starting to lose weight, then most certainly you want to reach out to a qualified veterinarian. Now, we get hundreds and hundreds of messages every single month, people wanting us to make diagnosis or telling them what's wrong with their dragon. That is something that we cannot do legally, nor can we can't make a diagnosis off of a picture or a photograph. So we do recommend you take your dragon to a qualified vet. When you select a vet, make sure that your veterinarian actually knows something about reptiles, because a lot of veterinarians out there know absolutely nothing about reptiles or exotic pets for that matter. But some of them won't tell you that ahead of time. They will, in fact, take your money without knowing anything about that. We have seen and heard some nightmare stories. So do your research, ask around herp clubs, herp communities, things like that. Just because a guy has a sign on the door that says veterinarian doesn't necessarily mean he knows anything beyond the normal cat or dog.
All right, guys, so another question that we get asked quite frequently, both online and at reptile shows that we attend. It's not really a reptile-related question, but many of you guys want to know where I get these hats that I wear. Now, for those of you who have watched the channel for a while, you know I've always been a fan of good quality leather hats. In our early videos, I used to wear the Wagga Wagga hat that you can see here. And then here recently, I also acquired this one right here. This hat right here is called the Rawhide. This is probably the one I wear in most of our videos. Now, I found these at a local Western wear store in our area, and I was very impressed with the quality of these hats. However, if you don't have a Western boot store in your area, that's not a problem at all. You can go online to Outback Trading Company, and you can find these hats. You can buy them, have them shipped right to your door. Check them out at Outback Trading Company. I think you guys will be as impressed as I was.
Hey, thank you guys so much for watching this video. We hope it was very helpful for you. And if you enjoyed it, y'all know the drill. Give it a thumbs up, subscribe. We have a Facebook, Instagram, as well as a website. So make sure you check out all of those as well. And the hats. Can't remember what they're called.
Hats. That's what they're called. We'll see you in the next video, guys. Y'all have a good one.
I said Blackbeard. It's been a while.
Well, you know. Take 6. They'll just put my hand behind her hair and pull it and make her mouth go.